original trip to Indonesia was the last trip we made, and it was an opportunity to tie together some of the things we had learned in other countries, particularly regarding the influence of Buddhism and Hinduism on the arts and cultures of the countries throughout the Southeast Asian region. Indonesia is a huge country, spanning nearly 8,000 kilometers from east to west, and consists of more than 17,000 islands, of which more than 6,000 are inhabited. Within this huge country, there are more than 300 distinct ethnic groups and an estimated 600 different languages. With a population of 255 million people, Indonesia is the world's fourth largest country in terms of population. Javaman are the remains of Homo erectus found in what we now know as Indonesia, and shows that this region was inhabited as long as 1.5 million years ago, with our human ancestors Homo sapiens arriving nearly 45,000 years ago. Indonesia was strategically important for the international trade, and links were created between India and China, and many other regions. This strategic trade location has influenced much of Indonesia's history, including its arts and culture. Hinduism and Buddhism arrived in the region nearly 1,800 years ago. By the 7th century, the Srivijaya kingdom was exerting its influence over a large part of what we now call Indonesia, and extending into Malaysia and areas of Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and even the Philippines. Some of the greatest architectural feats of the era include the Buddhist Borobudur Temple and the Hindu Prambanan Temple, both of which were constructed well before the temples at Angkor, which in turn are based on the architecture of Srivijaya era.
Selamat pagi. Welcome to Indonesia.
If we see it from a contemporary point of view, like Indonesia now, in here, on him, we can see three aspects of culture that you can still see in Indonesia now. First is the cloth. That's the batik, like the one I'm wearing. This cloth is made by a batik dye prestige technique, and then you see the monster head over there. That's the Kala head. That's still around as part of Indonesian architectural decorative design. So usually in entrance of, you can see in entrance of temples, but also in modern buildings and all that stuff. And the other one, the third one, is that little blade keyhole. That is a version of keris. Keris is also one of the Indonesian culture aspect that still, lives on until now.
While we were in Indonesia, we also had an opportunity to interview several editors of the Femina Group, a publisher of 14 magazines and the publisher of the first women's magazine in Indonesia, Femina, which was launched in 1972. We discussed several topics, including the responsibility publishers have toward the shaping of a country's society, as well as the changing role of women in modern society.
I think that the publishing industry has a very big impact on teenagers, especially in Indonesia, because aside from the school and the family, that is one of the main source of information they get. That's why we try to make our magazine fun, but not only that, also informative, but the most important thing is also educative. I think they are still struggling to adapt with the Western issues. They get, because a lot of information, a lot of fashion style is inspired by the Western celebrities, but in other ways there are still some cultural boundaries that actually sometimes clash between the Western cultures and the Indonesian culture. Most Western atau American style is tend to be very open, but of course Indonesia is a Muslim country, and we cannot just take the trends like that. And it makes actually Indonesian teens more creative because of course they have to make to find a solution to look stylish but still
Have a norm.
have a norm and look Indonesian. That's why the hijabers community here is pretty big because it is one of the community that looks stylish but still Indonesian. Indonesia is a Muslim country. 90% of our people are Muslim. So of course, religion have a very strong influence. I think in most aspects of life here, including the teenagers, there are strong influence also coming from Western contemporary culture. But I see that the teenagers are struggling to find ways between those two. And again, hijabers community, I think that's the best example I can give you about creative solution, how people manage to find balance between those two. Okay, I personally think that the role of Indonesian woman now has shifted a bit because maybe in my mom generation it was 70s. Yeah, in the role of Indonesian woman is housewife, of course. They give birth and live in their house after they graduate, or sometimes they don't even go to university. But now most women has pursued their career. That's also happened in the teenagers. For example, our readers. Now the willingness to pursue their career are higher. Back then, I think at least 30% are still wanted to get married after they graduate high school, but now they tend to have to go to the university first and then go to or get a job first before considering getting married. We tend to use Indonesian words to keep the local culture. That's why you also see in our cover we never put any foreigner models as our cover because we would like to keep Indonesian girls as our face of magazine. In our magazine we downsize the using of English because now in other teenage girl magazine you put mixed language between English and Indonesia, but our magazine, I can say for sure that we are the most committed to keep our language as the main language in the magazine. Of course, the chances are not as big as the men here, but I think that happens in any other areas in the whole world. But yes, there are women who try to make way into politics. One of the example of the great leader in politics, I think Ibu Risma is the governor of Surabaya. She's one of the, is it Times or something? Yeah. Time, the most influenced leader in Time magazine just featured because she ruled Surabaya, and there are a lot of changes happening in the city during her governance. Yes, you can be, let's say Bu Risma, you can be a governor of Surabaya, but of course people will also look at her as a mother, as a housewife. How does she deal with her personal life? Because then Indonesian also thinks that you still have to fill your responsibilities there in the domestic area. That's why I think it's quite a challenge, and the the demand is quite high. So you have to become a superwoman.
Little piggy. This is what we call celengan. Celengan is from celeng. Celeng means pig. So when we say celengan, it literally means piggyback. Yes. And this is from the Majapahit era. And we found it in different sizes. And so you can imagine how the civilization has already really developed. They already developed the habit of saving money.
Due to its geography with more than 17,000 islands, Indonesia faces many challenges in communicating with people across its huge territory. When satellites were first developed, Indonesia quickly realized the possibilities of this technology and in 1925 launched its first telecommunications satellite. We had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Atmaji about satellites and the satellite industry and their importance to Indonesia's telecommunication infrastructure.
Indonesia was developing its infrastructure coming up from different technology. We know that initially we have like landline technology before there is no satellite technology available. All the communication telephone are built based on a landline, wireline technology. That is what they call it. But starting on 75, Indonesia has launched the first. I think not worldwide. This is like the third country who launched a satellite to cover the country with telecommunication services like television, telephone connection. So starting from 75, there are different paths to cover the services. Some are using terrestrial, what we call terrestrial, is wireline connection. At the same time, Indonesia launched that we call satellite services. Using satellite, as you already know, that we have like a big bird in the sky who will repeat the information that we want to send or receive from Jakarta or from big cities to other places in Indonesia. In 75, people in Indonesia, not all of them can enjoy the, let's say, television. So, as a national interest, Indonesia has to promote its languages, cultures, to integrate the outermost part of the country into a single understanding what the country really is. So education, cultural understanding, and plain communication is really something which is very, very essential to building Indonesia at that moment. People speaking Bahasa Indonesia, that is something that cannot be done earlier because there is no way to send pictures, to send information to outermost islands in Indonesia. In 2005 and onward, government built what they call it Internet on Villages. They built a small kiosk where people can come there, open the internet, accessing information and sending messages, receiving messages. Maybe as we know that the internet speed is growing very quick. In the old days, people are satisfied with the speed of only a couple of kbps, but now as everybody is carrying their own gadgets and opening YouTubes, opening Facebooks, and opening plain internet bandwidth is not enough. The arrival of broadband technology will enable people in not only in the big cities but also in small villages can have equal access to that technology. That's the future. I think IP-STAR was the first satellite, broadband satellite, which cover this region. No other satellite, broadband satellite, has been launched to deliver that kind of services before. Then I think everybody is commercially agree that there's no other option other than delivering it using broadband internet. There is a trend that all regions are now converging into one places. Now we see that ASEAN, when people are exchanging goods and services, by goods and services, we also talking about the means to get there. I mean, when you do a transaction online, you do like e-commerce, you do like buying online, have your messages across different member of the countries in the region, then the connection in the region is a necessity. You don't need to go through national border just to get connected to somebody else in other places in the region. Maybe somebody can produce something there and at the same time connected to a client in other country, which will make the economy works in a much faster way.
Indonesia has the largest Muslim population in the world, yet geographically it is situated far from the origins of Islam, the Middle East. Even so, Jakarta is home to largest mosque in Southeast Asia, built to commemorate Indonesia's independence. Hence the mosque name Istiqlal, which in Arabic means independence.
This is the biggest mosque in Asia, and then it's the second biggest in the world after Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And then inside the mosque there is the biggest drum in the world. And then you can look, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors. That is the symbol because the Muslim prayer 5 times a day. The capacity this mosque, since outside, inside, downstairs, main lobby until 5 floors, minimal 200,000 people.
As we were looking at regional history and the influence of Indonesia's history on the region, we had an opportunity to visit the National Museum of Indonesia. The museum is one of the finest museums in Southeast Asia. To give us an overview of Indonesia's history, culture, and arts, we spoke with Indonesian archaeologist Anissa Gautam.
Religion, Hindu-Buddhist. The older version of Hindu, which is the Veda Hindu, actually came in from the earlier part of the century, as early as the 4th century, as we see in the Yupa inscription found in East Borneo. But Buddhism also come in, not far from that. We can know it from remains of stupa structures in West Java that dated from as early as the 5th century as part of the Tarumanagara kingdom at the time. The later version of Hindu, with what we saw in Central Java, it started to blossom around the 8th. So from what we saw from the artifacts, the 8th until around the 11th century. Then it shows a little bit development when it moved from around 13th century to 15th in East Java. So it's showing a little bit more variation of the Hinduism and also the Buddhism. There's a lot of local beliefs that colored the religion. So it shows different kind of form of art or different kind of minor deities and all that stuff. For the Islamic kingdom started to rise from 14 to 15 from Aceh and North Point of Sumatra. It was actually brought by the traders and the merchants along with the merchants from China in India. And some part of them start to live in Indonesia, mix with Indonesia. They even some adapt with the local custom, like in Bima. Bima is in Sumbawa, near Tambora. They have this sarong that they use for daily wear. When the Muslim come and with the hijab regulation and stuff, so they adapt by using the sarong on how to wear the hijab. So there's a disconnection between Hindu-Buddhist era and then the Muslim era. So if people come here and then see the museum, so where's the identity of Indonesia as the largest Muslim country, in the world? But the thing is, we had the story of Hindu-Buddhist in our country is from the 4th century until the 13th century, and there's like 3.5 century of colonialization and everything, and it was just all wiped out. So there's that whole systemized of disconnection from the previous history. In Cambodia, in Thailand, and in other Southeast Asia, you will find a lot of Garuda and all of this Ramayana or Vishnu kind of theme, either in the sculpture or on the architecture. And sometimes it's not always in the Hindu buildings, but also in Buddhist buildings, because there is this kind of understanding of leadership philosophy from Rama that Thai kings always have the Rama something or a version of Ramani. So there's a philosophy of leadership from Rama that is supposed to be understood by all leaders, either Hindu or Buddhist. And this Ramayana theme is one of the evidence that we see. One of the significant influencers, the Hindu-Buddhist era, which spans from 4th to 14th century, so that's a 10 centuries of period of Hindu-Buddhist development, and it influenced almost every part of our culture even now. Even though the religion changed, the political change, the kingdoms already passed away, but we can still see it in our culture, either in architecture or even in some localized tradition, like how to give respect to the death or for babies and all that stuff. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are the two main big stories coming in from India, and that came in with the religion, because that's not just a fable at the time. That's also part of the belief, part of the philosophy, the way of life. And then so Ramayana is the story of King Rama that tries to take back his wife Sinta by the help of the monkeys, and then Mahabharata is the story about heroism, how to deal with family conflict, civil war, and all that stuff. So all of these philosophies maintains in the region, not just on the religious side or the art side, but it becomes daily kind of understanding. Even though, like, if I'm a Muslim, but the story of the love story between Rama and Sinta, the loyalty and everything, that becomes inspiration for today's generation. Or the bravery of Hanuman and his monkeys, that's also become wonderful stories for the kids, on how you can work together as a team, as a group, yeah, there's those spirits. And also about the brotherhood of Pandava in Mahabharata, that's also becoming a daily story of how we can understand and understand and then practice these values with our brothers, with our families. How can we evade conflicts and how can we really just, get along. Ramayana, you can see, I already showed you guys, you can see it on the sculptures and everything. And then there's our aspects of the Ramayana story we can still show pop up on different part of the contemporary architecture, either the dragon, either the Garuda. I mean the symbol of Indonesia, the country, is the Garuda. So that shows, we don't realize it, but it's still part of our identity. Srivijaya Empire span from 6 to 13, and it's included like Java, maybe like west part Java, and then Sumatra, and then the Malay Peninsula up to Thailand. It was a Buddhist kingdom. It was the center of the trade in the interior part of South Sumatra. It's in Jambi. It's 6,300 hectare wide of complex of school, residence, and trade centers, all from bricks. So imagine at that time, we have a complex of university larger from universities in your country or in my country. So, and that because that supported by the whole international trade of the silk trade, but through the maritime route.
My name is Sim, and today we are in Indonesia. The most favorite thing in Jakarta is the mascot that I saw it in the monument, because they look really nice and look very traditional and cultural.
The thing I like the most probably be walking about stuff, because I can see a lot of things what is in Jakarta about.
I like the mosque because inside I can see the ceremonies of the religious, and the tour guide that guide us into the mosque explain very well about the mosque.
I like the old town because it looks nice and it look a little bit modern.